Welcome to the 3Haunted podcast, where we bring you all things horror, supernatural, folklore, mythology, and all things that go bump in the night.
What's up, everybody? This is your co-host, Ashley Lunar Goddess, Gorilla Girl filmmaker and horror-loving cinephile. I'm just your average podcast-producing badass.
I'm John Thomas. Some would say that I go a little too far with my love of all things horror, paranormal, and meta, but I say, talk nerdy to me, and I'm all yours.
What's up, ghouls, gals, and all of our horror lovers out there? In today's episode, we'll be bringing back an amazing guest, the fantastic, the phenomenal Michael Modest, to discuss more about his love for horror and more morbid mortuary moments. Also joining us is our special guest host, BJ Segura.
But first, a word from our network sponsor.
Are you looking for more awesome podcasts? Head on over to withoutyourhead.com for access to the Without Your Head podcast network, where you'll find a variety of podcasts sure to keep you entertained and coming back for more. All right, bring us back.
Welcome back, everybody. Like Ashley said, we've got good old Michael Modest back with us. Welcome to the show.
Hey, John, how you doing, man? Good to see you again.
Yeah, good to see you again, too. Been a while.
Yeah.
Hello, Michael. How have you been?
Oh, I've been great, man. Life's been very good to me.
Now, we're coming up on this spooky season. I think it's most of our favorite season. I don't know. I don't want to assume. Is Halloween everybody's favorite season?
It's my favorite season, for sure.
Absolutely. And as we talked earlier before this, it starts in August, right? Not quite October.
Right. My daughter, she insisted that we decorate early. And so, yeah, man, I've got scary dolls.
Little creepy head moving dolls. You got to fix it somehow so that it still rips the teddy bear's head off.
Yeah, you know what? I've tried everything, man. Super glue, and I've tried so many different things, epoxy even, to no avail. But yeah, see, the teddy bear head comes off.
That's so awesome. So your whole house is currently decorated for Halloween, correct?
Oh yeah, I've got animatronics everywhere.
That's so
Oh,
awesome.
that was another thing. So my daughter, she's into the scary clowns. So we watch Stromedy on YouTube. It's like Stromedy Productions or Stromedy Channel or something. And she really enjoys these scary clown videos. They go to a movie theater that is overrun by clowns, and she's into also the scary Chuck E. Cheese and the scary animatronics like Freddy Fazbear. She's got a Freddy Fazbear Halloween costume already.
Oh, from Five Nights at Freddy's?
Yeah. We went to a Spirit Halloween store the minute it opened in Reading, like we were there. And she's really, really into Halloween. And it's fun, man. I like it.
So she loves clowns. Is this like a daughter thing? Because my daughter is obsessed with Pennywise, and she has been for over a year now.
Oh, yeah. And Stromedy does that too. Like they have Pennywise versus this clown, or Pennywise versus Chucky doll. They do like different things like that. One of the things I was talking about earlier with you was the Goatman's Bridge. There's a bridge. I don't remember what state it is. I want to say Texas, but I might be really, really off.
I just asked the Google. It's Texas between Denton and Copper Canyon.
Okay, so it is Texas.
Yeah,
wow,
you got it.
Right. Yeah. Hey. If I was on a game show, I'd have won something just now. So there was a man, and please, can you tell me what his name is?
Ooh, I closed it. Hold on.
Because it's a true story. And we should remember. I should remember his name.
It is Old Alton Bridge. I'm trying to see what the guy's name is. We're gonna find it.
Okay, so the story is that basically he was a farmer. He was a black man, and he raised goats, sold different goat products and things like that, and also sold other farm products. And then at some point, he hung a sign on this bridge saying, "Hey, this way to, the Goatman's, farm, and people knew him as the Goat Man because he was the goat farmer. Well, I guess the KKK got upset about this, and they hung him from the bridge, and they killed his family as well. They burned his house and killed his family. And so now it's said that he haunts the bridge, and there's also like some crazy goat, half goat man demon thing that is around that bridge or something. And there's a satanic like rituals performed there. And of course it's a tourist spot, so a lot of people just go there to trip on it. But yeah, she was really into that one. She even set up pillows on the floor and pretended like it was a bridge. And then I would have to try to cross the bridge, and she was the Goat Man, and she'd chase me around the house, and hilarious.
I love her. Like, that's awesome. So the farmer's name was Oscar Washburn.
Thank you. Yes.
You're welcome.
So
What is her obsession with this, with all of the things? Like especially like the clown thing. I mean, the paranormal and all that. I guess my question would be, where did that start?
I don't know. I mean, possibly with me, because I mean, I introduced her to like the Creature from the Black Lagoon, some of the old classic horror films, and her mom and I both like Halloween. We kind of go all out for it, and so I think that's a start of it. But I still can't explain why she loves it so much. I remember when I was, and I think we talked about this the last time I was on, when I was a kid, I'd stay up for Creature Features, Bob Wilkins on Channel 2, KTVU, down in the Bay Area. And Bob Wilkins was smoking a cigar, and he always had like this creepy set, and he was sitting in a lounge chair kind of thing. And he would have, like the original Creature from the Black Lagoon or the Blob, or like some of the older horror films on, a lot of the Hammer films, the Dracula with Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing. He'd have those on, and then usually he'd have a guest at some point in the show that was somehow affiliated with the movie. And I would stay up, like it would start at like 11 o'clock or midnight or something like that. And gosh, as long as I can remember, I was probably like five years old. And I'd stay up and probably only catch the first 10 minutes of the movie before I fell asleep. But I was equally just like obsessed with horror films. I had glow in the darks of all the classic monsters. They were like this big, like little glow in the dark figures. And I remember I'd charge them, and then I'd go into the closet and scare myself with them. Just stare at them, and then I'd get creeped out and book out of the closet. I don't
So
know.
you like to be scared?
Yeah, it's fun, man.
In modern horror, with all the stuff that's out now, have you had a chance to watch any of the new horror films that have been coming out?
So I've been watching a lot of the A24, the production company A24. I've been watching a lot of theirs, and they're very scary, but they're scary in different ways than what I'm looking for. I'm looking for scary ambiance. I'm looking for like the classic horror film where you've got the cobwebs, and the set is as creepy as anything that's happening, actually, story motivated. The set is also creepy, and the atmosphere, supernatural ghost type stuff, haunted house. I wish they would do something along those lines. Their movies are horrific. I saw Infinity Pool. Did you guys see Infinity Pool?
That one was super twisted.
Oh, dude, it's like depressing and disturbing. Like after you watch it, you're still thinking about it, and you're just like, oh my God. So the idea, you said you hadn't seen it?
Not yet, no.
So the premise of it is that basically this guy and his wife, they go to a foreign island. And while they're there, them and some friends, who the friends go there more frequently, they go out in a car, driving along the island, and they hit and kill one of the locals. And they can either be killed for it, or through DNA, they'll reconstruct this island. The people will reconstruct you. They'll make a clone of you, and then the clone has to die for your transgression.
What?
Yeah, so they clone this dude, and the clone is murdered, but the clone doesn't know it's a clone.
Right.
It thinks it's you. So the whole time it's crying, it's horrified, and then they kill this being, and these wealthy people, they just keep doing it. They keep doing bad things on this island that require the death penalty. And then they just go, okay, well, we'll just have our clones pay for it again. And it just keeps happening over and over. And it becomes more and more like upsetting and disturbing.
I thought it was really decent on how it speaks to like moral relativism. Like if we know we're not really going to have to pay for the consequences, are we more likely to commit these crimes and do these acts? And I think the film kind of highlights like human nature. Like you actually want to do this stuff, you just don't want to have to deal with the consequences of it. So when you take the consequences away, how does a person behave?
Right. And I also liked the stipulation that you have to watch the execution. So the actual person has to sit back and watch the execution of the clone.
Didn't he start actually kind of getting into it?
Yeah, he did.
Like he actually was satisfied to an extent of his clone being killed.
Right.
Twisted.
Yeah, it was creepy.
That reminds me of Multiplicity with Michael Keaton.
Oh, great movie. Yeah, very funny.
I always like to like have my comedy and horror mix up, and I'm like thinking of that movie and seeing how would Michael Keaton deal with himself, because it's like 5 copies of himself. He's
right.
He's like, I like pizza, Steve.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it was hilarious because each copy got dumber,
Yes. But these copies are like the same people. It's like the same, right? They're the same person basically. No visible differences or psychological.
Yeah, and in their mind, they're the original.
Man.
They can't differentiate and think of themselves as a clone. They're the person, Also, the other one was Midsummer.
Mm-hmm.
Another super creepy, weird flick, man. They're on a roll. I mean, I've watched a bunch of them. I think X was also one, and then Pearl, which was the prequel to X. Did you guys see those?
No, that's on my list to watch. Actually, those came highly recommended.
Yes.
Talk to Me is actually at A24, and that's out at theaters right now.
It's actually on digital right now. They released it on digital yesterday to rent and to buy. So it's still in theaters, and you can catch it at home now too.
That one's solid. It's good. It's got some good praise.
Looks like it, yeah.
Okay.
I really want to see that. I think that one is more like, I don't know. I think the preview was like more like monsters or supernatural too.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That's one thing I love about I actually, when I went to film school, I was in this production management class, and we all had to pick we drew them out of a hat, like different production companies, and I drew out A24. So I had to do a whole thing about them and their films, and I became a fan. Like I really did, because they give no shits. They were like, we're going to make movies the way we want to make movies. We're not going to have it for like a general audience. It's going to be for like these 5 people that that are in their basement. Like it's
right.
Like it's not going to be one of those films that's you're not going to like, and that's part of the charm, is that it doesn't feel like a movie that like a lot of people are going to be into, some of it's like, oof, but that's part of it though.
And for that reason is why I probably don't like them as much, is because I feel stupid not catching a lot of the stuff that they're trying to convey on a lot of their movies. But like I still enjoy them, but I don't get it on that level that everybody else is getting it at. So I feel kind of dumb.
I don't think everybody is getting it though, because I know a lot of indie horror filmmakers that cannot stand A24. Like they do not like them. They think that they're super mainstream, and they're not. There's a lot of negativity that comes at A24 from filmmakers, especially the indie filmmakers, and which I find interesting because I feel like some of the horror films that have come out that really got to me, like in the recent times, and I say recent loosely, like in the past, 10 years, has come from A24. Like people don't realize the Green Room. Green Room
Right.
came from A24. That's a
Oh.
fucking brutal film.
Yeah.
Good movie. Yeah.
Yeah, that's A24. That's
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that they cast Patrick Stewart in the role that he did, and like how he executed it, I'm just like, whoa, that's phenomenal. Who, like, you wouldn't think that like that's your bad guy, that's your, and how well he did. It's just like, I'm kind of scared of you. You did that too well.
Yeah.
I think that since because like one of my first introductions to A24, I don't think it was The Witch, but I did enjoy The Witch. I think it was that movie that we went to go see in the theaters. It Comes at Night. That
I
was
did not like that
A24.
one.
Like that one just ruined it for me. I'm like, no, I can't stand it. I like no, just no. But one of the ones that I will recommend, it's not typical A24, is Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
I saw that one.
It's got comedy in there too, BJ. You'll love it.
Have
It's
not seen
freaking
that one.
it's
No.
great. Check it out. I loved it.
I would say my favorite A24 probably was Ex Machina. Like I just because I'm a big fan of sci-fi horror, or just sci-fi and horror. They don't necessarily need to be exclusive, but or together. But I felt like that one they did a really good job with it. With
Yes, you guys are blowing my mind. See, because I've seen that movie too, and I didn't realize that was A24.
hmm
That one
That's how
and
I got
Green
on
Room.
A24 was that specific one, and I was like, ooh, let's see more of these movies. Awesome.
So, comedy horror, the one that I just saw yesterday, Renfield.
Yes, I love Renfield. Yeah,
Dude, at first I bought the movie, right? And I just put it in my DVD collection. I never watched it because I found out it was a comedy. And I was like, I'm not in the mood for a comedy. I was looking for, like scary vampire movie, So I just put it away. And I live in the mountains and we didn't have internet for 2 days. And all I have is streaming on my television. And so I was without TV. So I pulled out the old DVDs, right? And I was like, oh, Renfield, I haven't seen that. And I'm down for a comedy. And man, what it sure delivers. And I love the concept that Renfield finally realizes he's in an abusive relationship with Dracula, and he goes to like a group and starts talking about his problems. It's just hilarious, the whole idea.
yeah. What I love about that film, I like the writing in it. I think the comedy is really like it's real witty in there. Like, there's one of the characters. She's just like one of the people in the support group. And she's like, well, I guess because Renfield comes in and interrupts everything while she's trying to, pour out her heart and everything. And she's like, well, fuck me, I guess. Like, I hate
Right,
myself. I hate myself too. Like,
right.
it's just like, oh God.
It
But
it I love some of the little hidden jokes. So when they're in the police station and they let the bad guy go, and the police sergeant's telling the chick, he's like, oh yeah, just get used to it, it's no big deal, like you gotta learn to play ball. And if you look at the back, written painted on the wall, it says solve no crime before overtime. Just hilarious, like those kinds of things and the movie is uber gory.
yes, much more than you would think, for sure.
Yeah.
And I think that movie, the strength of that movie is because I get, the big draw was like, oh yeah, it's Nicolas Cage playing Dracula. Like, if it was just that, and if it was all hung on like his performance and everything, then it probably wouldn't have succeeded. But I think with like what you talked about, and the gore and the storyline itself, like I think that's what made it, you know, rewatchable, because it's not just,
Oh,
it's not just
100%.
one time. You want to watch it a couple of times for sure.
I'll admit I haven't watched it yet, so
Oh, yeah, yeah. There's another one to catch up on. It's really, really good.
I'm so behind. I feel like I just need to take a week of doing nothing but just binging all these movies and TV shows that I'm behind on. Starting
So,
with Cabin in the Woods.
oh,
Yes.
you haven't seen Cabin in the
She
Woods?
hasn't seen. Yes, I told her we're gonna get together
No.
and watch it, all of us.
Yeah, I
Oh
know.
my,
We still need to
that's
figure that out.
so amazing, that movie.
Yes.
That movie's groundbreaking.
I know. And it's just like I don't now I think I'm just trolling like John and anybody else who's like, you gotta watch it. And I'm just trolling. And it's like, no, I'm not going to.
Yeah, no, it's just the right amount of funny, but that movie is kind of like the Evil Dead. It still maintains some scary elements to it, and even has a couple of jump scares, uh, but it's pretty funny too, and it pokes fun at classic horror movie stereotypes and things that always happen in horror films. It pokes a lot of fun on things like that. And then at the end of the movie, when you get to see
Don't give it
all,
away.
La
Don't
La.
do it. Don't do it. La la
She
la
doesn't. She doesn't.
earmuffs. I'm gonna
Yeah,
take my
don't.
headphones off.
She
Don't say
she can't know anything because it would give too much away. It's
Yeah.
oh
it's one
yeah,
of those
Ooh, yeah.
right? Like
Yeah,
because that's the thing. Like when you watch it, you don't want to know anything about it because then you're just like, ooh, I love where this is going. Because
on,
that's the thing about
you gotta watch it. Like you guys gotta make that happen
I will
immediately.
say I've kept myself pure. I don't know the premise. I
good.
don't know
which is
like
amazing at this point.
anything about it. But
Yes.
I've intentionally done that because I missed like the prime of it. Now that it's like, well, you got to watch it. I won't look up anything about it. If I won't talk about it, I'm like, don't do it. Don't talk about it, guys.
It's 100% classic.
Speaking of classics, Halloween is coming up, and we've been asking different guests this. What is your go-to Halloween movie this season? Like, what's going to be the
Uh,
first one you watch?
so Halloween, the first original Halloween with Michael Myers is always like a must. You have to watch that. But the new one that I really like is the Trick or Treat
Ah,
with
yeah.
the creepy kid with the lollipop, and how
Is
it's
it
kind of like
Sam?
yeah, yeah. And it's got that Pulp Fiction kind of feel where at the end you realize all the stories connect. That's one of the best Halloween movies there is out there because it's got so many elements that make Halloween so cool. It's got ghosts, it's got zombies, it's got ghouls, it's got vampires and werewolves and all kinds of cool stuff. And it all makes sense at the end. So I really, really love that one.
That's a solid one. We haven't really talked about that one on the podcast. Like, we've talked about a lot of horror films. We really haven't gotten into Trick or Treat.
Oh, that movie is such a great movie.
That's a pretty solid film. I haven't seen that one. I need to watch it.
I've seen it once. I need to rewatch it, revisit it.
I liked it. I think it's a fun one. I think it's really well shot. It's pretty. Like, I
Yeah,
know we're getting technical here, but like the color that they use, like just the tone that they edited, I enjoyed the technical aspects of the
right.
film. It's a pretty movie.
Yes.
I'm a big fan of lighting and cinematography. Like if they
I,
do it well, especially with the horror stuff.
I
It's
think
great.
you would like it. I think you'd like the cinematography. You'd like the color palette that they chose. Like it's really well done. It's a pretty film.
Nice. Yeah, that's
And I think it's fun. Look, I finally found one that I watched that you haven't.
oh, there's a lot. There's so many that you've seen. Like I haven't seen all of the Halloween movies. Like because I'm not a huge, I mean, except for the first one, right? Like just because John Carpenter, but like I don't know, like Freddy, right? Freddy's the slasher for me. Like it's Jason is good. I don't know. I need more. I need them to be able to talk. I need more of a storyline. I need like Freddy, you get dreams, you get talking, there's all these underlying things. There's all kinds of crazy stuff going on. But with I guess maybe I just need to give them more of a chance, but I feel like it's just kind of rinse and repeat, right? It's like, oh yeah, this guy is gonna come after you and he's gonna keep coming after you and he just doesn't die.
That's how I feel about Jason. And Shane's not on this episode, so I can totally talk shit about Jason. Like that's
Yes.
how I feel. It is so redundant. Like the first one's fun. The second one's fun because then you get the monster and it's not the mom. But then anything past that, I feel like starts to get redundant to where they have to take him to space and hell just to make it interesting.
Everybody has their own, favorite slasher, and Jason is definitely not mine. Sorry,
Michael's
Jason.
like, he's mine.
I love Jason, man.
I saw his face
Yeah.
when we were saying that. He's like, excuse you?
Yeah, no, I love Jason, man. And like I 100% agree that they probably didn't need to do as many as they did. Like Jason in space, for example. 100% that didn't need to happen. It hurt my feelings that it did happen. It ruined a lot of things in my heart, and trust in filmmakers was one of them. So like I agree to there, but as far as like the Friday 13th part 3 was amazing because it was 3D. So they took the monster again, but this time it was 3D. You saw the arrow coming at you and different things, and they kind of put over that he was this undestructible kind of thing, not just a killer, but he was undestructible. And then 4, you have to like 4 because Feldman was in it. Corey Feldman, you have to like it, right?
Look, just because he was in The Lost Boys doesn't mean I'm gonna love every film he does.
You do have to love it. He was.
I did not love
and he-
Lost Boys 2. I did not love Lost Boys 3. I did and he was in them.
But you did love Stand By Me
And I did love The Goonies.
How could you not?
and Ninja Turtles.
Yeah, Donatello.
And he did such a great job killing Jason when he was like, die, die.
And
He's
Gremlins.
hit him over and over. Oh man, if that didn't choke you up, you just
Gremlins.
weren't
Can we all just agree that Gremlins is a horror film?
Yes, we've
100%.
discussed that before. Yeah, it's even a
But-
Christmas film.
It's Christmas and horror. Who doesn't love Christmas horror?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I just say that also Jaws went 3D for their third one as well?
Yes, it's a no-brainer. It ought to be like almost a rule. If you do a third movie, it's got to be in 3D.
How
You
come
know.
Hellraiser never went 3D? That would have been sick.
Ooh,
That would have been awesome.
at your face. Woo.
Like that would have been so disturbing and probably something I couldn't stomach, but I would have to watch.
And you could when
Yes.
you see the hooks coming at you, and then from the sides you would feel like you'd see skin coming from into the frame, 3D,
Oh,
like it's coming from your own face. Ooh, I can see it happening. That's amazing.
see, they should have done it. It probably would have been so expensive, but how cool would that have been?
Yes.
No,
Well, VR, like do VR now. You can do VR. I feel like movies should be doing that. Have VR elements to it.
right. I was just gonna say because back in the day they used to like smell-o-vision and different things to try to draw people to the theater. I could totally see the Hellraiser thing where even the home version, you just hook these little things up to your face and they're just stagnant until someone gets hooked and pulls, right? And then those things start pulling just enough to be uncomfortable. Really add an element to the film.
Say cheese and die. Like, oh, perma smile.
Exactly.
Oh my God. Because I think about the different Cenobites and them getting created and like how interesting that would be to experience that 3D. Because they show how some of the Cenobites are created. And it's just
Right.
like, oh, that's brutal.
Looks like a blast.
To think I hesitated.
Right.
That it looks like a blast.
It doesn't look fun.
You're such
Yeah,
a Michael.
But he's such a good salesman. He pitches it so good,
Does he?
Yeah, he pitches it really well.
I think Michael's just one of our closet BDSM friends. He's like, Pinhead sells it. He's like, pain is pleasure. Yes.
Yes, it is.
Says 100%.
I like when he tells that guy, your suffering will be legendary even in hell. I mean,
Yes.
tell the guy right off the bat, you're going to be legend, bro. That's a pretty positive thing, you know? And so who could deny you're going to be like, legend? Yeah, I want to be a legend, you
That's
know?
what you take from that.
100%.
I like it.
I like that you see the positive side of things. He's literally saying you're going to suffer so much, it's going to put everyone else to shame. And you're like, I'm a legend.
Everywhere you go in hell, everybody's going to be like, bro, I'm buying him a drink. You know, like,
Legend.
yeah, everywhere you go, people are going to be like, man, I didn't suffer worse shit compared to you, homie.
Oh my God. You are the most positive person I know. You find the positive. I'm going to find pinhead quotes and just throw them at you and see how you can find the positive lightings in those.
I did have a question about Hellraiser 2 now that we're talking about it. And it kind of disturbed me a little bit. Not in a, it was like, it was upsetting. It's like, why was the doctor so much more powerful than like everybody?
What
You
do you
know,
mean?
like he just took the Cenobites apart. Like basically was like, you're gone, you're gone, you're gone. Like out of like nothing, like just tore them apart.
Yeah.
Because their level of evilness in life determines their level of how extreme they are as a Cenobite. So I'm assuming the Cenobites that currently exist were levels of evil, but because he was the most evil, he's torturing people and forcing them to open the box in the psychiatric ward. People that are mentally ill, so they're innocents, right? And so
Okay.
he is more evil, which means that him as a demon is going to be more powerful, stronger,
Because that
even
was
if he is new.
it kind of, yeah, that was the thing that kind of bothered me because it was like, because he is so new, you would think that, well, I guess it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're new or if
Well, it's I get what you're saying, but I think what it all boils down to is there's no union in hell. So it's like Satan just does what he wants, and he's like, yeah, man, okay, how long you been here? 2 minutes? You're the guy now.
you're the king.
I'm giving you all the shit. And then the guy that's been there for like 600 years, he's like, hey, what's up, man? You know, and devil doesn't care. Like that's part of the whole thing is to be unfair. You know, that's part of his evilness.
Very true.
So I'm pretty excited. This is not necessarily horror film related, but I'm excited because the movie Beyond the Mat is being released in Blu-ray now. So I kind of feel cool that it's still relevant enough to be released again, you know.
Heck
And
yeah.
I have a story about that movie. In the film, you see me pulling out a body out of a van and, you know, moving that body around and stuff. But the body, you know, the body bag zipped up, obviously. And so by law, you can't just move around dead people for fun, you know, or for film purposes. You can't just be like, yeah, so, you know, who's going for a ride today? You know, you just can't do that. You have to move them for actual reason. And at the time, I wasn't even working at the mortuary anymore. I'd already started working at a furniture place. But the director was like, "Man, it's way more interesting. The mortuary is way more interesting." So I called my boss, and my boss said, "Oh yeah, you guys can come, you know, use the facility and stuff. Just, you know, we'll make sure there's no bodies wherever you are and this and that." So when I moved the gurney, there was someone in there, but they were alive. It was one of the production assistants. So she volunteered to be in the gurney, right? But sadly, I hadn't worked there in like, I don't know, 3 months or something since it, you know, got filmed. And one of the gurneys was always kind of catchy on it had like a little foot pedal that you press, and that helped keep it up and locked it into place. And so I thought that I had, you know, locked it pretty good. And when I pulled her out, the legs came out and seemed like everything was going great. But as soon as all of her weight was now on the gurney, the legs collapsed and she dropped. I don't know, it was probably like 3 feet. She dropped straight. And luckily, you know, it's really padded and this and that. But it scared the hell out of her, the poor lady. She thought she was going, you know, the ride of her life. She thought she was gonna be dead. So that's just a little behind the scenes that kind of mixed with the mortuary and the re-release of Beyond the Mat, which I'm pretty stoked about.
Now remind me, when did you work at the mortuary? Like what years were you, do you remember?
I don't remember. It was, I probably only worked there for 8 months to a year, and it was before Beyond the Mat was filmed. Because when they had come to me and actually said, okay, yeah, you're the guy, I had already quit the mortuary and was not working there for maybe three months or so.
What like even brought you to work at a mortuary?
So I was thinking about trying to be a paramedic or a fireman or something like that, you know, if wrestling didn't work out, because I was, you know, training to be a wrestler, but obviously knowing that, you know, maybe I wouldn't make any money and or good money. So I was thinking about that, and I asked a relative of mine what they thought, and they said, well, you ought to go get a job at a mortuary instead, because if you do, you know, paramedic stuff or fireman stuff, you are going to be around dead bodies. You know, like that's going to be something that you have to get used to, and you're going to see a lot of messed up stuff. You know, I took their advice and I went and did that and learned pretty quick that, oh God, I did not like it. It's depressing, you know, when you go pick somebody up. Like looking back on it now, it's cool because I have some stories, you know, and I don't know, I don't even remember which ones I shared with you last time. Uh, did I talk to you about my first pickup by myself?
Yeah, I remember the body that wouldn't go down, and
Yeah,
then the smell, the story of the smell.
yeah, the disinterment.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why zombie movies, I'm a big zombie movie fan, but they've always kind of bummed me out because it's like, dude, please, there's gonna be the smell is there's no zombie sneakage. The zombies can't be ninja. You know, there's no possible way ever. It permeates your cells. Afterwards, months after, I would be in all kinds of different places and I would smell it and I'd be like, oh man, I must have something on, you know, and I'd start smelling myself like, you know, because I could smell it so strongly. To this day, I had an aunt that came and lived with us for like 3 years before she passed away. And when my mom would help her, you know, with bathroom stuff in her room, my mom would spray this cinnamon air freshener. And so now Christmas time, all I smell is poop cinnamon. Like everywhere I go, that's what it smells like to me. It doesn't smell like cinnamony when I go into a place that has those wreaths that you know are scented for the holidays. All of it just smells like poop cinnamon. Doesn't smell like cinnamon. It
You
ruined my
made that association.
yeah, it completely ruined cinnamon smell for me. Thank God I can still eat French toast and things that, you know, have a cinnamon taste. Yeah, it's just the smell that I don't like. I don't like,
Cinnamon toast poop crunch.
Gross.
right, right.
You know, you said that like zombies can't be ninjas, but then I think about like it depends on the zombie, right? Because we have different type of zombies that have been created with filmmakers, and
Yeah, so I thought about this a little bit, but no, and I'll tell you why. Because even the infected zombies, like in 28 Days Later, and even Z, even that one, you know, people turn really quick and they become like it's almost like a virus. Okay.
yeah,
The problem is when you're insane, crazy virus person running around trying to bite people, you're probably shitting yourself along the way as well. 'Cause you're definitely not going, I gotta go to the bathroom and heading off to, you know, go use the bathroom and wipe and clean yourself. Instead, you're just running around, bodily fluids everywhere, vomit, whatever. And so again, those guys are going to smell so bad so fast that there's no way you're gonna,
He's
you're gonna
really
smell
put
that.
some thought into this.
Yeah. But I will say this, in World War Z, when they come out of the plane and it's all dark and it's rainy, now that would probably, negate the smell at least to some extent.
It took a
The
bath,
rain.
a forced bath.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so crazy to think about that. Like I think about like marijuana, right? It's got a very distinct smell. You smell that, it's like, ooh, somebody's smoking, and that I feel like that's like a trigger for you, right? Like you smell that, you get that whiff, you're like, oh yeah, there's
Oh,
there's
100%.
there's some dead guys walking around. Or
Well, and here's the bizarre thing is I've smelled lots of like dead animals, okay? Oddly enough, we really don't even smell like that.
Mhm.
We don't smell like a deer. Like when you're walking by a deer or some roadkill and you smell what it smells like, we are as distinct as a dead skunk. Like a dead skunk has a really bad odor because of its glands as well. Okay. So you've got the putrid rot and then the glands. We're the same way. We eat so many weird different things and we have so many different things in our intestines and our gut that a deer would never think of eating, that we don't even smell like that. We smell like, oh, way worse. People just smell just the worst, man. There's
We're gonna have to
nothing
put
like.
a warning on this episode. Don't eat while listening to this episode.
Oh yeah, for sure, man.
Do
Also, I
zombies'
want to.
digestive systems work though? I'm curious about that. Like,
I don't know.
because they're dead, so they're no. Because it's the same thing with vampires. Do they
But
pee?
again,
Do they poop? Because is that digestive system working since they're not technically alive?
but whatever they ate is going to be fermenting in there, like all of that.
From before, yeah.
Yeah, and it's in your tissue. It's like people talk about when they eat like a lot of garlic or something. You'll smell it in their sweat, or a heavy drinker, you'll smell it in their sweat. It's the same sort of thing. It's in our tissue. It's in our blood supply. It's in all kinds of parts of us. And so, oh, so bad.
So what happens then if a zombie smokes weed? Do they just smell like just weed, like rotten weed, like really stinky weed?
It's a zombie air freshener at
Oh,
that point.
so bad.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Still bad.
Or it could be like the poop cinnamon and it'd be like weed poop or some. I don't know.
I don't think you can cover up that smell. The smell
No.
of rotten decaying. I don't like
No.
it doesn't matter what you put on it, that's gonna come through.
Yeah, it's like when my mom would help my aunt, and then, like the smell of crap is one thing, but the smell of crap and violets is another, or crap and cinnamon is another. And so now my nose only smells one thing. It's a terrible curse. It's
You
like
know, you're
being
creating a mental association for me now. So when I smell cinnamon, I'm gonna automatically think poop.
poop, right? I think I've got nose blind.
Oh no.
I wish I got nose blind.
And I chew cinnamon gum like every day, man.
Oh,
I'm chewing
chewing
turds
on the
all day.
poop. So to change the subject. Oh my gosh. I don't even know what to change it to. Actually, Michael, have you had any paranormal experiences? I know we talked about you had the extraterrestrial one, right? Or maybe we weren't sure what that you was.
Ball of light.
Yeah, but have you
Yeah.
had any of like, especially recently, like in the past few years, have you had any paranormal?
Actually, the bar I work at, I've had a few things happen. Nothing super recently, but when I only worked there a couple of weeks, one of the customers we only had one customer in there. We were closing up, and this lady named Sue was training me, and she was closing the register. I was standing at the end of the bar. The bar was everything was clean. I was just standing waiting for us to leave. And the customer mentioned, he said, "Well, man, I sure do miss my buddy." And I don't want to say the guy's name, but he was just kind of like, "I sure miss my friend. We'll just call him Fred." And he said, "I sure miss Fred, and he says, sometimes I wonder if when I'm here, if Fred doesn't like come and hang out with me, you know. And when he said that, one of the glasses that was sitting on the bar side, it's a tall chimney glass, it flew across the walkway behind the bar, flew across, hit the top of the bar, and sent glass sliding across the bar at the guy that had just said that. Because I was standing right there, I saw it happen. And if that glass had fallen for any reason, it would have only dropped, you know, right to the floor.
Yeah.
It would have never made it the 3 feet across to the bar side. And I'm standing there with my mouth agape, and Sue turned around and she yelled at the customer and she said, "Hey, when you ask stupid questions, you get stupid answers." She's kind of a feisty gal, and very cool. So that happened. There was another night I was closing up, and the front chair turned towards the door, and I face all my chairs into the bar when I'm closing up. So I faced all the chairs the right way. And as I was doing some other stuff around the bar, I look back and I see that the chairs turned again towards the door. So I'm like, all right. I walk over there, I turn it again, and then I just stand there staring at it. Like, okay, move. And it didn't move. So then I start stomping and trying to blow air. I'm trying to do other things to manipulate and maybe make that chair move, you know, but it doesn't. And I thought maybe the wheel, the ball bearings inside maybe were faulty or something. So I thought maybe it would move, but it didn't. So I start walking to the end of the bar. I turn around and it's exactly where I left it, facing the bar. And I'm like, all right, good. So I get the money together. I head out to the back room, and I lock the money away in the safe and turn off all the lights. And when I come back into the main bar area, there it is, turned towards the damn door again. So I was just like, all right, you win. Go ahead and sit in the chair how you like. I'm leaving. And I did not move that chair again for the night. There's also a place across the street that's haunted. And it's interesting because in our little town, people that drive through, they think of this place as old. A lot of these buildings were, you know, built in the 1800s, late 1800s. But in Ireland and England and stuff like that, you have buildings that are 1,000 years old. You have these really old buildings and stuff. And so it trips me out, because if our little places are haunted and, you know, it's only been 100 years or 200 years, certainly there's, you know, a lot of haunted castles out there and stuff. The only other thing that happened at the bar was one night, I was picking up all the money. Oh, I've had pool balls move on me. Yeah, I'm playing by myself at the end of the night. I go to shoot and the ball goes beep, moves, you know, a good inch and a half away from the pool stick. And I'm like, oh, come on.
Apparently you weren't playing by yourself.
Right. But the only other major thing that happened was I was putting the money away one night and I walked by the bathroom, and the bathroom door went, it opened and then shut, I would say about 4 inches, you know, not a whole lot, but enough that I knew it wasn't wind, and I was positive there was someone in the bathroom. So I stepped back thinking maybe someone had passed out in there, and I just didn't check good enough or something. But I was pretty sure it was empty, but maybe someone was standing on the toilet in one of the stalls, you know, and had the stall shut. And so I pushed the door open with my foot and went in there, and there was no one in there. And so when I put the money away, I spent like 20 minutes trying to make that door move even just an inch, and I could not get that door to move at all. For 20 minutes of trying, the door did not move. The only thing I could think of on that one was, I thought, okay, it's an old building. Maybe if it got colder or hotter outside, then the timbers and stuff in the building, maybe it caused it to, you know, stretch or manipulate, you know, swell or whatever, and maybe that's what caused the door to move. But it was about that much.
And you don't like when the chairs moved, you didn't hear them move, right? You just turned around and
It was
it was
moved.
moved. You didn't hear
Yeah.
it scraping or anything, right?
Uh,
Huh. Because like I think about vibrations, like sometimes when the floor vibrates or something vibrates, things will kind of move. But you would have heard that. You would have heard the chair kind of doing its thing as it turned.
Do you have cameras there?
they do, but they don't work right now. They haven't worked for, I don't know, a year and a half or so.
With the pool table, like you playing at the end of the night and the balls moving, do they roll just a little? Have you ever seen them like roll forward, roll back, or like what do you think
No,
that is?
I've only had to move out of my way and move like maybe an inch, or so. Some people have told me that little tiny pieces of chalk can sometimes get left on the table. And when a ball is sitting on it, it sits for a period of time until eventually the small weight of the ball finally breaks that little piece and it'll cause the ball to roll. So that's what someone told me. But I honestly, I when that happened, I picked up the ball and I checked, with my hand and eyes, and there was nothing on the table. The table was clean.
Well, and given
So
everything else you've been experiencing, the little things of movements, like it would lean more towards probably not a piece of chalk, but you never know.
yeah. So here's an interesting fact as well. So one of my customers bought the building across the street, which is a restaurant, and then it's got apartments up above. And so he's basically living in the upstairs, and he'll be opening a restaurant in the downstairs. But again, it's a very old building. And he does not believe in the paranormal or ghosts or anything like that. And when he bought the place, I asked him, I said, "So, are you nervous about the ghosts?" And he laughed and he was like, "Oh, I don't believe in that stuff." Since he has moved in, he now believes in ghosts. He's become a believer. And an interesting thing that happened was there had been lights that kept coming on. Like he'd be sure that he turned off all the lights, and yet he'd come down in the morning and there would be a couple of lights on. Just different things like that he was positive wasn't him, and he was by himself. And so there was a point where he kind of talked to the ghosts, and he said, "Listen, you guys are welcome here. Just don't cause problems upstairs or downstairs. You're welcome." So then his girlfriend comes, and he doesn't really talk to her much about the ghosts or nothing like that because she does believe in ghosts. Okay. So he doesn't want to get her brain going because he's positive she'll have some story to tell if he tells her that he thinks the place might be haunted, right? So she has a nightmare, and she wakes him up, and she's like, "Oh, I just had the scariest dream." And he says, "What did you dream?" And she said, "I dreamt that you were sleeping. I woke up and the room was filled with people, like dressed in old clothing. And they were all just talking and like visiting, and it was loud in here. And I looked at you and I said, 'Andy, wake up.' And you wouldn't wake up." And she said, "And then one of the ghosts or one of the people saw me and said hello." And I said, "What are you doing in here? You're not supposed to be in here." And the guy said to me, "No, no, it's okay. Andy said we could be here. Andy said it's okay." And so she told him that. So he came over, he told me the whole story. He was like, "Man, it's just unbelievable," because
I mean,
for
he
sure
did tell the ghosts they were welcome.
they were welcome. And when she was telling him, like, "What are you doing here? You're not supposed to be here." "Oh, no, no, it's okay. Andy said we could be here."
We got permission. It's cool. Don't
Yeah,
worry.
all good.
I hear Andy and all I think of is Chucky.
That's scary, especially if it's a lot too. It's one thing if it's just one, but if there's like a bunch of spirits there, like that's, I don't know. I guess if they're not causing problems, it's not a big deal, but still, like that's a lot to deal with.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
just across the street from the bar, and I don't feel like ghosts have boundaries. Like, oops, that's the front door, that's the sidewalk, we can't cross there. So if there's like a heavy cluster across the street, chances are
Right.
maybe they are coming to play pool with you and hang out at the bar.
Well, and in the back of okay, so the restaurant's in the front, and in the back there's oh, what do they call it? It's like a dance hall. There's like a large room where they would have dances and stuff. And so I kind of think ghosts can time travel and kind of go wherever they want. And so why wouldn't they go to a place where they were having fun, dancing, drinking, hanging out with their friends?
I mean, that's very Shining-esque, and it sounds like Andy's about to, be all work, no play, makes Andy a dull boy, but we'll
Yeah.
see. It could be fun, and you're in a mountain town, right? So,
Yes.
now, are there other buildings on that road where the bar and the other building are? And have you heard if there's any kind of activity there? I'm just curious if like the whole street's popping. I'm assuming it is, but
Weaverville Hotel, I guess it used to be a brothel. That's the word. So that place is haunted too. And the last couple that I just talked to not too long ago that had stayed there, they came over for a drink. They said, "Oh yeah, we're staying across the street at the Weaverville Hotel." And I was like, "Oh, cool." And the lady said, "Hey, have you ever heard about that place being haunted?" And I laughed. I said, "Oh yeah, many times." And she looked at her husband and she goes, "See, I told you." So what had happened was the night before they they were sleeping and they could hear someone standing outside their door and they could see the shadow kind of moving a little bit and they could hear like on the wood like someone standing out there and kind of switching their weight from foot to foot. So the husband had gotten up, he snuck up to the door, opened it real fast, and no one was there. And they had that happen several times through the night where they definitely heard someone walking and there was no one walking. There was no one outside the door and they kept seeing the shadow as well walking by. So that was the last story I heard about the Weaverville Hotel.
there's probably an upset, escort who's just like,
Yeah.
y'all are in my brothel and no activity is happening. Like, what the heck?
So when I was a kid, me and my sister, we had something crazy happen to us as well. I remember being in like a crib where the back of the crib was against a wall and there was a goat man, like small goat man with little burnt hands, and he was playing on these toys that I had and also trying to get into this crib and touch me, like get me with his little grubby hands, right? While this was happening, there was two little boys. I had a rocking bear. It was like a rocking chair, but it was designed like a bear. And then I had a little rocking horse. And these two little boys were on these things and just kind of rocking. Expressionless face, uh, very pale looking, they looked dead for sure. So this was a dream I had, I don't know, when I was 2 or 3 years old or something, I'm guessing. Yeah, because I was in a crib. Fast forward to where I'm like 12 years old, and my sister and I and my mom were setting up the Christmas tree. And my mom had this reindeer ornament that was made in India. So it looked kind of strange and it had a weird looking face. And I just mentioned that it kind of gave me the creeps, that it reminded me of a dream. And my sister said, "Really?" She goes, "What was your dream about?" So I started to tell her about the goat guy, and my sister like freaked out, and apparently she had had the same kind of dream when she was young as well. That's a pretty weird thing. Me and my sister had the same dream about this weird goat guy, right? But a friend of mine told me a better story. So his friend had called him up and said, "Hey man, me and my wife are leaving town, can you come by and take care of the dogs and the animals and stuff and help us out, I'll leave you some pizza money." So my buddy said, "Sure." When he got there, they kind of showed him the ropes and said, "Here's this and here's that." And they said, "You're welcome to, sleep here in this room or sleep in our room, or you can sleep in, the living room watching TV. You're welcome to sleep in any of those rooms. Don't sleep in this room though." And my buddy was like, "Well, why not?" And they said, "Well, everyone that sleeps in that room has a bad dream." And So we just don't have people sleep in there anymore. So he's totally into supernatural stuff. And he was like, well, I'm sleeping right in there. I'm going to see if I have a bad dream, right? So he brought the dog that he was, taking care of, and the cat or whatever was in another room, but brought the dog in the room with him. And in the middle of the night, he has a dream of this guy in old farmers like clothing standing outside the window staring in at him. So he wakes up from the dream, looks out the window, there's no one there, but the dog is growling, staring out the window. So he's like a little creeped out about it. He's like, that was a little creepy. Goes back to sleep, and he has the dream again, but this time the man is inside the room, standing at the side of the bed, staring at him, and he's woken by the dog growling and actually biting at something. The dog's on the bed, kind of going like ash, ash, leaning forward and biting at the air. So that was enough to freak him out. He got the dog. He was done sleeping in there. He went and watched TV and fell asleep watching TV in the living room. So the next day, being that he's into the supernatural, he's like, well, I'm going to test this further, because he started thinking the reason he saw something and the reason why he had a bad dream is simply because his friend put it in his head that he would have a bad dream if he spent the night in there. So he calls a friend, another friend. He's like, hey, man, John and his wife are out of town. I'm house sitting for him and taking care of the dog. Out here, I got pizza, like I'm gonna watch some movies tonight. Why don't you come over and spend the night? So his friend says, sure. His friend comes over and they have some beers and eat some pizza and have a good night watching TV and whatever. And he suggests to his friend, he says, yeah, you can sleep right here in this room here. It's a nice little guest room, right? And
Oh my God, that is so mean and brilliant all at the same time, because he's not putting suggestion in his
no,
head.
in fact, he said it's a really nice little room. He said, oh, it's a really nice little room. You'll like this room, right?
Oh my God.
So his buddy goes to sleep in there and he stays out in the living room, and sleeps out there. So in the middle of the night, here comes his buddy leaving the room, coming out to sleep on the floor. And he's like, what are you doing? And he goes, oh, I'm not sleeping in there, man. He goes, I keep having this really bad dream about this man that's staring at me. So that's the best dream ghost story I think I've probably ever heard.
That's
I wonder
amazing.
if anybody had ever seen that through and like stayed past him being at the bed to see what does he actually do. Because if it's just he just stares at you, then like that sucks. But whatever. But I
Could be
wonder like,
scarier.
yeah,
Right.
but I wonder like, does he do something like, do you go back to sleep, wake up and he's on top of you? Like how far does this go? I wouldn't test it on myself. Like fuck that. The first night that the dog was biting at something, I would have left the house. But I'm just curious for those that are brave, how
Well,
far
have
does
you
it
guys-
go?
And have you guys ever had experiences with like the sleep paralysis, the shadow figures?
Yep. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I have
No.
lifelong history with sleep paralysis.
Oh, that's a thing, dude. That's such a thing. When I was a kid, I would like wake up and I would realize that I was having one of these episodes, right? And I couldn't move, and you can't even go back to sleep. Your heart's beating so fast, and there's always this ringing in my ears. And I would have to look around and basically see this shadow guy and like almost play the whole thing out before the paralysis would stop, right? This thing was tall. It was like at least 6'6" or something, like a really tall, lanky figure. And the only way I can explain it to people is it was black darkness within the darkness. Like it was so dark that you could actually see a figure, because natural moonlight and starlight and all that stuff, street lamps and all that, it doesn't make it dark enough, for this
I know
thing to hide,
exactly what you're talking about.
right?
Like it's almost an absence of light versus
Yes.
dark.
Yes. And it was kind of weird what when I would see this thing, it would be standing in the corner it would start swaying side to side like this. And then it would bring up a hand, another one, start moving like this. And then it would lunge at me. And it could get to my bed in like one step. It was so tall and long. It would step towards me and then like just vanish as it came at me. And of course, it always scared the hell out of me.
I always think like you described that, and all I could think of is like the car things that like sway.
Yes.
The when there's
The
like
wacky
cells.
waving,
Yeah, the
inflatable
wacky
arms.
waving.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And not funny when it lunges at you. That's no longer.
No. But that's exactly what the movement of it, and that's how the dream was every single time. It never changed except for once. There was one time that the dream actually changed and went a different direction. He was even always in the same corner of the room, never changed. Probably the last time I ever had the dream, I looked for him in the corner. I was, paralyzed, and I looked in the corner and nothing was there. And I tried really hard to go back to sleep. I was like, man, just go back to sleep, and I couldn't. And eventually the sleep paralysis started wearing off. And I started thinking like, wow, I'm not even going to see this thing, but I was still kind of convinced that it
You
was in the
sound
room.
disappointed.
Well, yeah, but I was because I was comfortable with the predictability of where it was going to be. I knew what I had to do to play out this whole scenario. And this was the first time that it wasn't there. So it was a longer period of sleep paralysis. As it started to wear off, I got the gumption to kind of like lean off my bed. And what I was wanting to do was get out of my room. And when I leaned over the bed to get out of my room, it was right there on the floor, laying on the floor, and it reached up at me as I was coming up over the bed. It reached up, laying on the floor.
But see, you're not in sleep paralysis anymore. Like
No, not at
that's
the time. I had been there for probably like five minutes or so. It seemed longer, but it was probably about 5 minutes where I couldn't move. And then it started slowly like wearing off on me. And I was like, okay, I think I can get to the door and prevent this whole thing from even happening, and prevent the jump scare. And as soon as I leaned over the bed, there he was, reaching up at me.
Were you like, there's my buddy?
there, my buddy and me.
You don't have to sleep on the floor. You can sleep in the bed with me.
But let's be clear, that's no longer sleep paralysis. So that's not your brain still dreaming. You're
No.
moving, you're now awake, and it's still there. So that's fucked. that's all I gotta say. Like sleep paralysis, we take solace in the fact that what we're seeing might be coming from our brains. We're maybe projecting something, we're still dreaming. But at this point, you're awake, you're moving. And so like, what the fuckery?
Yeah, that's gonna be a no for me, dog.
That's a no. Have you seen it like as an adult? Do you see it still?
No, never had any experiences as an adult with that at all. It was only when I was younger. But I watched a special on Netflix about the whole phenomenon, and it's really amazing how many people have had this thing happen to them, and how many people believe that these shadow beings, these shadow creatures are real. They're not a figment of our imagination. It's like something coming into our reality or into our dimension or whatever.
Or maybe we're just seeing what's already there. But because we're in that in-between state, we're able to see it. So it's able to see us. It's like a mutual recognition. Like we're entering kind of that space where they always existed. And because we're now present there, we can see each other.
Right.
And it's like, hey, buddy, there's my buddy.
Right.
Yeah.
When you accidentally lock eyes with somebody, you're like, oh shit.
Oh no. He lunges at you. What you're doing in my dimension?
Right.
It's probably frustrating for him because he's probably standing there thinking, how can I not scare this guy? Shit, I'll wave at him.
Right.
man.
Honestly,
Wait,
like, how would
Well,
that be scary? And then all of a
Yeah,
sudden,
that doesn't seem to work. Maybe if I wave with both hands so I look really friendly.
let me try and
No.
hug them. That's what they
Right.
do in their world. I'm gonna hug him.
Yeah,
Yeah, at last resort effort, here's the hug, bud.
Here's the hook.
Yeah.
Why is he screaming? Is that hello?
Yes.
Yeah, we don't know if they're angry or if they're evil. Maybe they're just, looking for a friend.
Possible.
This was a lot of
Yeah.
fun.
It was, yeah,
Um,
a lot of good stories for sure.
Yeah, I always we love having Michael on. His stories are always fun. So we were happy to get him back on. We're gonna ask you to come back on. All right,
Oh,
John
yeah.
Thomas, you want to bring us home?
It's BJ's turn. Just kidding.
All right, BJ, you're up. Make it roll.
He's like, shit, I don't know what I'm saying.
Words,
I
what are
got this.
words?
I won't do that to BJ right now. It's only
Right,
his,
I like the right now.
it's only his third show. I won't do that to him now. Thank you, Michael, again for coming on. Always a blast having you on, and love hearing your stories. Like everybody has said, always fun.
Thank you, guys.
No
Appreciate
problem. And thank you to everybody who listened to this episode of 3Haunted. Words, Jesus Christ.
Let's do it again.
Yeah. And thank you to everybody for listening to this episode of 300 Podcast with your host. I'm John Thomas.
I am Ashley Lunar Goddess.
And I'm BJ Segura.
If you have any questions, comments, or episode suggestions, please feel free to email us at 300podcast@gmail.com. And if you haven't done so already, please like, follow, and subscribe to all of our social media. You don't want to miss amazing guests like Mr. Michael Modest.
Until next time.